On, everybody? I hope you're all doing well. I kind of didn't get to everything I wanted to get to in the last video, and since how I'm back. And while I'm on this topic, I'm gonna ask you, like always, just to share, to get it out there. We know after channel after channel after channel has been eliminated simply for exposing and showing the truth. They don't like that, and this is, I know a lot of people like to say that, they have one of the most shadow banned channels, highly censored channels, but I think things speak for themselves. So I'm going to ask you, and I have a good feeling about this channel, that you share it and get it out there. We at least get to 50, because then we can do the live streams, and it's a lot better when we can interact with each other. At least I think. I've seen a lot of this type of thing lately. And this is something that the writing has been on the wall for quite some time, dealing with, our rights, our freedoms. And the mindset, that has to be really taken into consideration for this to be even acceptable to be printed by one of the most prestigious, this is the New York Times, one of the most prestigious media outlets, journalistic companies in the entire world. Ever. Supposed to be. So when they say things like this, the Constitution is sacred, is it also dangerous? And then it's followed by a lot of these other outlets saying things like, is it outdated? Is blah, blah, blah. And you have to wonder why it is that they're choosing to focus on this. And they'll come up with story after story, and they'll manipulate things to get, anybody can do it, right? Anybody can make anything sound good, and anybody can make anything sound bad. And they do it in such a way, and the mainstream media, the news, has throughout history had a prestige about them, right? People trusted in their news. It was one of the only forms of information that they could receive, and that lasted for centuries. The printing press, all of it was remarkable. And then it evolved, right? Then people were able to see the things on television. And never in a million years they would have thought that their government would be manipulating things, only showing half-truths, and then ultimately end up lying anyway, for the purpose of whatever agenda that they were trying to feed the people. And no fault of the people. They were caught completely off guard. And I think we are in a very peculiar way going through the same thing now. They are pitting us against each other in every way possible. The divide and conquer. It every day is something new, and it blows my mind. And it's something new pertaining to something extremely old and something tried and true that they've done to us from the beginning of time. They've always pitted us against each other, because if we are too busy arguing over politics about who's going to rule over us and what this side believes versus, and we get so passionate that we fail to realize what the true issue at hand is. Who are the ones that are orchestrating this entire thing? And these same people, this machine, because that essentially is what it has evolved into, has decided that if you're not saying what that machine wants you to say, then you should be penalized. And they're doing this, they're making the case especially now, but they've been doing this for a long time. But this is a perfect example of Helene, Hurricane Helene. They're saying things like misinformation is causing a massive hampering in. I know the last video I was kind of facetious, maybe a little sarcastic, but truth be told, it's what's happening at a massive scale. They are gaslighting the entire population, the world, and really anybody that's looking. And a lot of people in the United States are actively looking into what's happening in North Carolina. And if you go on places like X and see some things on Rumble or TikTok, you realize that what the official story is from the mainstream media and FEMA and, the White House, etc., differs immensely from the people on the ground. Now, who are we supposed to believe? Because they're threatening us, and I'm going to show you. They're telling us, like, how dare you spread misinformation and jeopardize these people, like FEMA, for instance. That's what my last video was about. Jeopardize these people that are working hard trying to save all of the people that their lives were horribly disrupted by Hurricane Helene, and many, many lives lost. It's a tragedy, and you should pray for that. Leave that aside, but the thing about it is, that's one side of it. And those are the people that are living through it. And they're posting, it's an endless, you just go on X, search for Hurricane Helene, FEMA, and it's non-stop. And you quickly begin to realize there's a lot more going on than what they're saying. But if you were to take the mainstream media's word for it, you would be thinking that the only problem is people that are expressing their concerns. But then you have to consider that the people expressing their concerns are the people that are affected, and people sharing their stories. All of the, like the $750 thing, right? That was big. Oh no, that's a lie. That's not all they're getting. They did the same thing to Maui, by the way. They burnt all of those people out of their homes and offered them $750 with a contract that they had to sign in order to receive that $750. But while signing it, they were losing property rights if they didn't pay it back within a certain amount of time. Same thing is happening in North Carolina. How many people know that? How many people know that North Carolina has this gigantic lithium deposit? How many people know that Elon Musk put out a tweet not too long ago saying, basically that lithium is the new gold? Well, if lithium's the new gold, then you're going to want to go to where the places are that have the most gold. And we're dealing with lithium. Well, you're talking about the Smoky Mountains. You're talking about North Carolina. You're talking about that whole area. There's already deals in place with Tesla and the lithium. Now, I'm sure, that's conspiratorial. I'm taking it a little far. But when you see damage control, like I'm about to show you, then, each to their own. Think what you want. I'm just here to present another side. But before I do, the Constitution is sacred, but is it also dangerous? New York Times. The United States Constitution is in trouble. After Donald Trump lost the 2020 election, he called for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution. Outraged critics denounced him for threatening a document that is supposed to be sacrosanct. But by announcing his desire to throw off constitutional constraints in order to satisfy his personal ambitions, Trump was making his authoritarian inclinations abundantly clear. Now, some of you might not like the fact that I'm about to say this, but they're probably rather accurate in this assessment, because it doesn't matter who gets elected into office. It's only going to be the person that they have already predetermined to be, which my money says Trump. I guarantee you Trump gets in. And when he does, it's going to be the kickoff of essentially a civil war, because they're going to try to take that from him. They're going to try to, I'm just guessing here, but they're going to try to do this recount bullshit. Now, like I said, it doesn't matter who gets in, it just matters optics. So if you get a Kamala Harris type of representative of the people in, they have their own agenda, right? They're on the left. Even though they actually represent nothing like that. The left never was about war. They were never about censorship. They were never about corporations. They were never about big pharma. But now it is. Now it 100% is. Now it's this conglomeration of evils across so many different sectors that it's a evil octopus of sorts. I digress. Outraged critics denounced him for threatening a document that is supposed to be sacrosanct by announcing his desire to throw off constitutional constraints in order to satisfy his personal ambitions, blah, blah, blah. It's no surprise, then, that liberals charged Trump with being a menace to the Constitution. But as president, see how they do this? If you can keep blaming the other side for, the rights being chipped away, and like I said, Trump is going to get in, and he's going to become the law and order president, like he has stated. He'll be dictator on day one. Now, I know that's been taken out of context, and the media does what the media does, but it was still a statement, and Trump's made plenty of statements that are similar. He is not your saving grace. How many times do you have to see him, especially, I've never seen the president stand in front, or a former president stand in front of complete Israeli flags with a couple American flags in the middle, right? Three Israeli flags on the left, 3 American flags in the middle, 3 Israeli flags on the right. And he's accepting his $100 million bribe from the Israeli lobby, who's also funding the other side as well, of course. And all of the constituents know, a lot of them know this. And what do they just keep, one of these sides are going to be better than the other? They're going to save us? No, it's up to you. It's always been up to you. We need to stop believing in these people that aren't anything but a propped up puppet. We need to be advantageous. We need to do things that help ourselves and not these politicians. We need to realize that this country was the people, by the people, for the people. We allow a government. We allow it. They don't allow us. They don't control us. This is the only country in history. This is a gem. This is a diamond in the rough. And if we fuck this up, there is never going to be another chance at total freedom of human beings owning their own virtue. It won't happen. It is now or never. It's been told about. There's books. There's a book that told us quite literally what will happen during these times. But it won't happen unless we make it happen. Unless we stop giving our worth away to this system that gives a damn up. No shit's given. They don't care about you. When they want you to get jabbed, it's not because they love you and offering you a nice sugary treat while you do so. Like Mayor de Blasio shoving his face full of deep fried greasy fries. Oh, a cheeseburger too? Watch it. But that's what our government is. They're manipulators. They're controllers. The only thing they care about is more power and control, and that is gained through more money, through more of your hard-earned dollars, through taxes. They want to raise taxes. They always say, we're going to raise them on the rich. It's trickle down. You raise them on the rich, you're raising them on the business owners. The business owners have to pay more in taxes. Well, they're not going to stop. It's not going to come out of their asses. It's going to come out of yours. So anytime you hear, oh, I'm going to take it out of the, just know it's you. They're the ones that are making these policies. They're the ones donating to these candidates. Do you think they would be doing so if there was a risk to their wealth? Of course not. Anyways, we see where the New York Times stands. Let me get into this.
There's a lot of discussion now about how you curb those entities in order to guarantee that you're going to have, some accountability on facts, et cetera. But look, if people go to only one source and the source they go to is sick and, has an agenda and they're putting out disinformation, our First Amendment stands as a major block to the ability to be able to just, hammer it out of existence. So what we need is to win the ground, win the right to govern by hopefully having, winning enough votes that you're free to be able to implement change.
Implement change? What type of change was he talking about? He was talking about the First Amendment being a hurdle, being the one thing standing in his way, in their way. Let's hear it again. It's worth hearing it again.
There's a lot of discussion now about how you curb those entities in order to guarantee that you're going to have, some accountability on facts, et cetera. But look, if people go to only one source and the source they go to is sick and, has an agenda and they're putting out disinformation, our First Amendment stands as a major block to the ability to be able to just, hammer it out of existence. So what we need is to win the ground, win the right to govern.
Win the right to govern, to implement change about your First Amendment rights. They're not bullshitting. They're coming for your freedom. And that should let I don't care if you're on the left or you're on the right. I'm not on either. I don't play that left right. If you do, they got you where they want you. If you think that I'm not going to tell you what to do, but there's not much hope. If don't think they're not smart enough to have a bunch of news organizations demonize a guy to no end and hype him up, make him look like the savior. These people are, if I can think of it, they certainly can think of it, and they probably had decades ago, right? They formulate these things well in advance. Who was it? Was it nothing happens in government by accident? I forget who exactly said it. Somebody throw it in the comments if you could, because I do appreciate that quote, because it is so true. There is nothing that happens by accident when you're dealing with the government, when you're dealing with this machine, this beast system that is just continuing to expand and grow and reach its tentacles into every institution, into every corporation, into everything it possibly can, and exert control over those things. And it's only getting worse. And they're allowed to continue because we are pitted against ourselves. We're not seeing what is happening. I am here to just slightly nudge you awake, to show you that this game being played started without your knowledge, and you were an unwilling participant. But it's like you woke up and rolled the dice, and all of a sudden you're playing a game you weren't even You signed up for it. But it's time we realize, and yes, there's damage done, but it's not too late. And we need to regain control before it is. Enough John Kerry. We heard what he had to say.
If you're not making $158,000 per year, but you'd like to, I strongly encourage you to start a bookkeeping business. That's right.
I can't listen. If it wasn't an ad before it, I'd play it, but Homeland Security. Homeland Security Chief warns hate speech is hurting hurricane relief, risking violence. These are the stories that they're propagating. And I'm only using this Hurricane Helene thing as an example because they're doing this at every turn. They're using these disasters, these political things, school shoot, whatever it is that they can get away with doing it, right? They're going to continue. Pay attention, please, to the language and the way that and I know many of you already know this, but there are people that are just waking up to this, and we need them to realize what is happening. The quicker that they understand, the better it is for the rest of us. So it's important to understand the way in which they go about these things. When they say, like, because nobody wants to be on the side of hampering efforts of aiding people. You don't want to hurt people. You want to help people. Most of us do. We're human beings. So when you see things like, oh my God, those conspiracy theories about like FEMA not helping and confiscating goods, having Black Hawk helicopters just annihilate different parts that were, setting up for donation centers and organization areas. There's all sorts. Matter of fact, maybe we should go down, even in this video, and take a look at what is happening in North Carolina. Let's do it before I go on. I don't want to be like one of those all talk people. I want to show you the on the ground stuff. It wants to keep going back to YouTube for some reason. Now, I'm doing this on the fly, so forgive me, right? This isn't a perfectly edited. I'm not going to cut it out. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm going to search live, kind of, Hurricane Helene, and we'll see. I don't want the publicity. Let's type in FEMA. This is Hot Springs, North Carolina. This tiny town has a population of 535. It was completely devastated by Hurricane Helene and completely ignored by Kamala Harris, right? Not Kamala Harris. It wouldn't matter. FEMA is FEMA. This is what I mean. They're just Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, Donald Trump, Kamala Harris. No, these things are being done by that system, and that system is going to make you think that the other side is doing it. They're not you. They're not us. They're not us. They're not you. They're them. And us are different from them. We are the people. They are the government. They chose that position. They have sworn an oath. If they break that oath, then us as the owners of this government system, as the people, need to rein that in. Now, obviously, we want to do that peacefully. Nobody wants to see violence. But it definitely appears that violence is continually used against us, the people. And I think that is an important distinction to make. And I could say, continue to be peaceful, because they will continue to use more and more force. They want to be able to use things like geoengineering. That way you never know it was them. But people are catching on. People are starting to see that for decades they have been researching these technologies. For decades there has been technology existing, such as HAARP, the High Auroral Active Research Facility or project. That's small potatoes, considering the type of technology that they really have with the NextRed and the neutrino lab that's in, I don't know, Antarctica. That's nothing. I mean, the Club of Rome. We'll get into this, guys. I've gone through channel after channel after channel, getting into the nitty gritty of this technology, showing you not stuff that I believe, but their own documents. That's what makes my channel dangerous, I suppose, for them, is that I don't ever use anything of my own creation. When I start really doing deep dives into things like I did with Charles Lieber and Robert Langer, which I've done with geoengineering countless times, I've done this is how I operate. I want to show you their material, and you be the judge. You be the judge. And then I'll show you the ridiculous propaganda that they spew through the extension of the military-industrial complex. It's propaganda armed the media, mainstream media. You'll be able to see perfectly clear why it is that they're saying what it is and what it is that they're hiding. Maybe, maybe not, right? You be the judge of that. But after seeing coincidence after coincidence after coincidence after coincidence, it starts to make you wonder. But then when you start seeing actual admissions and whistleblower testimony, and that coincides with patents, and there's a motive of, like, for just example, Hurricane Helene, like a massive lithium deposit that they have been so desperate to get their hands on. But just like in Maui, where they wanted the land and the residents that were there were grandfathered in and didn't want to sell, this kind of the same thing. The people there that owned a lot of land on that mountain didn't want to sell it to them. They were battling it. It was a battle that has been going on. And all of a sudden, there's no need for a battle anymore because there's nobody there to battle. These are important things. Oh, let me... FEMA, right?
Are being redirected to migrants, which is just... My broader question to you, I think, is about this misinformation. Do you think this is a time to put falsehoods aside, like the idea that FEMA funds are being redirected to migrants, which is just not true?
Well, it is true that FEMA and the Department of Homeland Security have been spending billions of dollars on migrants. I understand some people say they're separate funds.
Now, guys, all this bullshit from either of these two aside, we gave like $100 billion or 100 million. No, 100 billion is way too much. I hope it's not 100 billion. How much did we give to Lebanon? A country that aren't anything to do with anything we should be involved in. In Israel and Ukraine, and we're just giving billions and billions of dollars away. We have people. We seen it in Hawaii first. It was almost like a test zone, right? Whoa, that's way off in Hawaii. It's almost like another country. We seen Maui burn. We heard the people there like saying that this is nothing like they've ever seen. This wasn't normal. This wasn't natural. Well, those were crazy conspiracy theorists. They were using the same type of tactics trying to discredit those people that lived through it. And now we're seeing it. Not to mention the forest fires, even, or like the campfire in California and some of these other things where people witnessed some very odd stuff where like houses would burn down, but the trees wouldn't, or like a whole plaza would be melted, and yet there would be like a children's plastic slide right in the middle of it that clearly should, like weird stuff. But fine, let's, like, think nature's weird. Maybe that could happen. Fine. But now we're dealing with a whole other thing, and it's not looking anything like what it is that they're telling us. And what I'm basically trying to get to is what we really should be paying attention to. Well, there's a couple of things. Pay attention, first off, to the people that are going through it in their accounts. Right? That's obviously, they're not going to lie about what's happening to them that have lived through it. But then pay attention to the way it's being spun. Because they're going to, if anybody's saying anything that went through that problem, like not even a problem, a life-changing event, and they're saying things like, we've seen some very peculiar activity. And then when those people start being labeled as conspiracy theorists or spreading misinformation that's really hurting the response and things like that. And they keep clamping down on the same terms over and over and over. Pay attention to that, and then pay attention thereafter for the third thing, and that is what needs to happen. They don't often say that third part. Once in a while they do, and when they do, they're letting you know, if they have their way and people keep eating up their bullshit, they will do that until they have crossed whatever line that they're trying to pull them across. It's time we wake up, we recognize what is happening, and we stop it in its tracks, take back the country that was always ours. These people have taken control over it and are now threatening the citizens for helping citizens.
We haven't seen Hearts. We haven't seen FEMA. We haven't seen Red Cross. We haven't seen Hearts with Hands. We've seen no agencies come through here. Most people drive through with their cameras out, filming us like we're animals in a zoo, and don't stop. We have.
Cute rescue dogs.
About the public trust during COVID, about how you're violating the public trust right now. You're lying about this. You're lying about masks. You're lying about social.
Oh, you know what though? Truth Stream Media actually has some real good stuff about this. So I suggest you check them out. If you're unfamiliar, you're probably already familiar with them.
North Carolina that was directly affected by Hurricane Helene. Anybody in their right mind thinking that outside people should not be speaking on what the government has done or is not doing to our area is insanity to me. As someone who is here at Ground Zero in Mitchell County, North Carolina, it is going to take you as the creators on this app to speak up to get us help here. Because I will tell you, our government is not doing a damn thing.
What say you? Who would have thunk your government isn't doing a damn thing about it? Why would that be?
For us.
Get here. We need you. We need people experiencing hiking. There's only a few ways to these people. It is to foot, horseback, or helicopter. Dirt bikes, ATVs, side-by-sides. If you have them and can get to East Tennessee or Western North Carolina, we need you. Do not listen to the news when they tell you that they don't want you.
You think she's being dramatic? You think she's like a little over the top, maybe? No. The people that have gone through this isn't a normal event. Like, this isn't like raging water rushed from the mountaintops and just wiped everything out in an instant. There's footage of like a basically sunny day with a river raging of mud and trees and rocks just screaming down the side of a mountain, annihilating everything in its path. They've witnessed things that you and I probably, hopefully, will never see. Loved one, like people in trees and in embankments. They need help. And the government, your tax dollars that are supposed to be there, not to send to Ukraine, not to send to Israel, not to send to Lebanon, for our brothers and sisters. And yes, our brothers and sisters extend throughout the world, but we have problems here. We have people in need for their very lives here. And the government, your government that you're paying for, we the people are allowing to screw over our people. That is the message that needs to be brought home to people, because this isn't the end. This isn't a tragedy, a one-off. This is the state of being going forward, unless we do something about it. I'm going to wrap it up here, guys, but I want you to share. Get this channel out there. Let's grow it, because, well, it's time that we do. God bless you. Much love.